Hey Donny, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, cool. How's things down in London?
Uh, okay. Okay. What can you do? It's
Ex
okay. An interesting
exactly.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Just for a disclaimer to all the listeners, if I end up calling you Gaff at any point, that's my nickname for you. Because Donny used to be my football manager, like years and years. What was that? 2008,
Uh,
2009?
yeah. I left in 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so throughout those years, I've always called Donny's always my gaffer. Whoever, no matter what happens, Donny's always my gaffer. So just a little disclaimer for you guys: if I call him Gaff, that's why. Gaff, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So well, as you said, I live in London. I work for a company called Snapshot Staffing, and I deal with the entertainment side of the business. So we have an entertainment part called Snapshot Live,
Right.
which I look after. I also run Comedy House Live, which is an events company based in London. We've done a few gigs out of London, but mainly in London, where we do comedy gigs and various other performances, live production. But probably my biggest job is looking after my little one. He's 1 and a bit years old now, so yes, that's probably the number one job of the lot.
Amazing.
If I should call it a job, I probably shouldn't call it a job.
Do you know what? Being a parent is the biggest job anyone can do. I'm not a dad, so I haven't got any kids, but being a parent is the biggest job anyone can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can definitely class it as a job.
I don't get paid for it, sadly.
So with Comedy House Live, what sort of events and sort of stuff do you do with them?
So we basically created comedy gigs for up and coming talent, established talent as well. We've added along the way. So we've had people who might be doing one of their first ever gigs, to someone who's doing their 50th gig, to someone who's been doing it for 20 years and been on TV and everywhere. And we've just essentially put the regular thing we do is put up a stand-up night with 4 or 5 or even 6 acts in any one night, along with the host. We've also done, we've helped produce a few people's 1-hour theatre shows and put that on stage as well. Basically just supporting talent ultimately, but the overall number one thing is always a comedy gig that takes place. And obviously with the current climate, we haven't been able to do that. So last week, for the first time, we put on a magic show on Zoom.
Yeah.
Which was good fun. There's someone that I've had on stage before, who's Pete Heat, the magician, and I was lucky enough to have him on our first ever Zoom gig. So that was a lot of fun.
It was incredible. I was part of that Zoom call, and he just blew my mind. Some of the stuff he came out with, it's just, even now, it's been a few days later, I'm thinking, how? I don't understand.
Yeah, incredible. If you haven't seen it, check him out. He's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely he is. You run Comedy House Live and you manage people with Snapshot. How do you motivate people to the performance that you want them to perform at? Is there like a technique, or is there certain, I wouldn't say trick, but is there certain technique you use?
Basically, in all respect, it's just making sure that it's clear guide in what it's needed to be done, how we want it done, and allowing that individual to embark on it in their way, to bring out what they can do in that field, as well as guiding them along when required, if you see that there's something needed. But it's just, if there's an event on, for example, it's making sure the foundations are laid correctly. So that can be any aspect of it, from the timings to who's there, to dress code, to layout of the room. Anything and everything has to be considered. And basically, you kind of lead by example. I act as if I act accordingly in the way that I expect the team to act and go and push and be there for clients and guests, etc. And the talent themselves are as important as anyone else as well. They need to feel comfortable and wanted and needed and put into an environment that is great for them to perform. And that's only then can you really get the best performance. So you look after your talent that's booked. It makes you look after the environment that you're in. It helps the guests and the clients, and overall, everyone benefits from it, and it leads to more success, and you can go forward from there. But when you reflect on that with your team, it's a great feeling when they come back and they see that they've achieved something. So it's sometimes you need to be a bit firm. Sometimes you need to pat them on the back and give them a hug. But ultimately, it's just being reactive. I think it's very, very important to what's happening.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier about leading by example, and you were actually a few weeks ago, you mentioned The Last Dance, the documentary that was on Netflix, and Michael Jordan said, like, I wouldn't make someone do that I haven't done myself.
Exactly that.
I think that's a perfect example of an elite sportsman just going beyond what he expects of himself and what he expects of the people around him.
I think that's massively important. You're constantly being me myself, for example. I'm constantly reviewing absolutely everything. I don't stop analysing from the days when I was coaching football with you, to up to now and onwards. For sure. I don't stop analysing everything to the point it might give you a bit of a headache at times. But what it does do, it allows me to see every small bit of detail that ultimately comes together in a grander way, and it's all needed. So sometimes I remember there was an event that I invited a colleague of mine, from another company, to come along and chat with him so he can discuss something with the client there, because I knew that would be good for them to speak. And I remember him saying to me, "Why you're obsessed with the tablecloth?" There was just a bit of tablecloth around the DJing booth, and I was like, "Yeah, I need to go and sort it out." And I don't remember what I did. Apparently, I just fixed some tape around some tablecloth. And he said, "Do you not have anyone else for that?" I went, "Well, yeah, anyone in the team could do it, but why can't I do it?" So it's that. I mean, if I'm not willing to do something, I don't expect anyone else not to do it as well. If I can do it, everyone else can, and that's it. Everyone's part of it, and I think that's the great thing at Snapshot is the founder director, Benjamin Glean. He does that to an absolute T. Really, you would think he's every possible role in that company. And that's just, I think, a great example. And I believe I'm kind of the same. I like to think so. You're gonna try and close the deal with the big clients, and you're gonna look after your staff, and at the same time you're gonna scrub the toilet. So just get up and get on with it.
Yeah, no, I was. So I just had a thought of when you used to manage me at football. You just had this eye for detail, like, because obviously you had the overall pitch that you can see, and I remember you even during the game you was just saying, like, just attack, because I was playing either left back or left wing, and I remember you saying just go for the right back or the right wing back. He's either being too slow or his decision making is not great, and it's just those little details helped us win matches, and I don't think we would have won half the matches if it weren't for your insight and your analysis going into the game.
Oh, Bal, thank you very much. No, it's important. I think it's very, very important, and it helps every individual. For example, if every individual takes some element of that for themselves, every little bit of what they do, regardless if it's even making dinner or how you travel to work or doing your actual work or you're playing sports, if there's odd one or two bits that you can improve, it just essentially you got a better all-round way of dealing with that or producing something. So it's always good to review.
No, definitely. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about the flip side of that. So say if you have an employee or a football player, for example, that isn't performing to how you want them to perform, is there a way you deal with that, or is there a way you tackle it?
Well, every individual is different, so I won't go and say what I'll do with one person is the same for the next person, and sometimes there's not always the same method for each individual. So I wouldn't go and do the same thing 5 times with one individual, because sometimes a different incident or issue may need addressing in a different way. But it depends. It really depends on each one. I remember in the past when I feel like someone is not quite performing to what I believe they can do, what they're capable of, and at the same time had some arrogance and way about themselves and how they're handling themselves in that moment. And we have a firmer talk about it, and make them realise why we're there, and bring them down to earth in not in a massive bump, but make them realise, look, there's a reason what we're doing. So readdress it, and get back on track again. And it's very important never to get too big for your boots in any aspect of your life, I think, but especially in business and when you're in the front line of different things and you're very visual and you're not just stuck in an office. It's very, very, very important, because that kind of arrogance comes across and doesn't look good for a company or anything you're representing at that time. Other people, it may be they generally you've seen them just a bit down. Maybe it's getting to a bit too much. Maybe it's just really busy time of the year, because certain sectors, obviously, we're very busy at Snapshot at the back end of the year, especially in the seasonal time. And sometimes it's just being there, supporting, reminding you're on the same side. You might just buy someone a cupcake, and it could be a simple thing as that. It's everything is individual, and I think that's helped me a lot as well, because I'm also a qualified teacher, so it's helped me a lot when I've been teaching in the past as well. Because again, you have 25 students in the class, and they're all very different to the next, even if they seem like they have the same issues. So it's very, very important, again, going back to just analysing and reviewing each individual incident, each individual issue for each individual, and don't think that you can tackle the same person in the same way 10 times in a row. It might be 10 different ways every time.
Yeah. So do you think you have to be sort of adaptable in those sort of situations, like knowing the person on a personal level?
Absolutely. I think it's important to get to know them, the work person, if it's a work thing to a personal thing. It's important to know that person's ways of their work. It's important to kind of get to know them as an individual, as a person, get to know them as a team member, get to know their interests and what things they like and how are things at home. Because sometimes it's very easy to you go into work and you think, oh, they're coming in, let's do your things. You've got these 10 tasks. They've only done 6 or 7 of them. How comes they couldn't do them? Because it's perfectly reasonable timetable for the day. And there might be things going on at home. So I think it's very important to do enough groundwork and lay the foundation that you know what that person's into. And, from one thing of speaking to someone who might be shy, but they're into rugby, and you say, oh, did you catch that one? What did you think of this coming up? The World Cup's coming up. What do you think of this? Who do you think is going to win? To someone who's just into cooking, or someone whose mum might be a bit unwell, but you take a note of something in the past from a conversation, you bring up in a way that you wouldn't speak out loud. You'd speak to them a bit more one-on-one, whereas the rugby thing, you'd speak a bit more out loud. It's tackling each one individually again, and just having some tact about it. And you're trying to again show your support, and the best way to show your support is actually by knowing someone.
Okay, yeah, and I think not to blow smoke, but I think you are excellent at that, because I was the type, even if I had a bad game, I was the type of player that you needed to put your arm around me, and the amount of times you did that for me was, I can't even count. So I think your sort of personal skills are just amazing, and I learned, being at uni, I learned a lot from you in the ways that you've just said, where you have to be individual with every single person that you're talking to. And I think how you dealt with me was different. How you dealt with one of our strikers is how you dealt differently with one of our goalkeepers, which was, I think, is amazing how you did that. So just a massive thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
So I just wanted to touch on, getting clients. How is there a specific way to do that? Would you go to networking events? Would you cold call? What sort of things do you do?
It can be a little bit of everything. I think it's very important, firstly, to always, sounds a bit boring because I've said it before, but lay the foundation correctly. But if you lay the foundation correctly for the business, then you can go forward with, this is our previous event. Okay. And you've got something to show. So your portfolio is, I've always said to myself from university days because I did graphic design back at university, that you're only as good as your last project.
Yeah, massively, yeah.
There's no point being great 5 projects ago and you've been awful the last 4. And then it's great to show your development, but also what's I think important to us in the office is to show someone we can tackle this event or this job or this we can do with your specific requirements, even if it's different to what we've normally done. And by doing that, the best way I found that we can do that is show them previous history of what we've done, but now start to link it to them by doing the research on that client, on that company, finding out what they're about, what they need, the way they've been the last 6 months, what they plan to do going forward. And by doing that, you could have a more all-rounded conversation with them that leads to you, leads to them, hopefully, but it seems to be working, believing in what you're saying, them getting that you get them, and ultimately that bond and that trust they have in then with the supplier or us, your supplier and client together, can build so they can basically book you, you get in, you build that relationship. And it's worked very well for a number of years through various jobs, but it works very well for us with this. We're just, I think it's very important for clients to see that we care about what we're doing. It's not just a job, and it's beyond a career. It's something that we just embrace, and we want to be really good at it. We love it. We want to do more of it, and we're there to help everyone with it, basically.
Yeah. No, I agree with the thing you just said about you're only as good as the last thing you did. So because obviously we're both football people, so going back to football, if you're a footballer, you're only as good as your last game. So it's no good saying, but I was, I don't know, a Premier League winner 10 seasons ago. That doesn't matter. You need to be good in your last game. And for me personally, because I radio present and I do podcasts, I'm only as good as my last one.
Yeah.
Because that's the most up to date, and that's the thing that you can show off the most. So I totally agree with that. But looking at the qualities of an entrepreneur or a businessman, do you think that anybody could run a business, or do you think you need to have like certain qualities or certain attributes to run one?
I think anyone can start a business.
Okay, I see what you did there.
I think anyone can start a business. It's I don't think everyone can run a business, and I think that's just the way it is. There's so much that is involved in what you need to do. Day one is a very big day to set up a business. Full stop. Day one is probably a number of many days, many weeks, could be some months for some people. I set up a business many years ago that I ran for about 2.5 years.
Was that the magazine?
Yeah, basically created a design company. So we're doing graphic design and various website design and advertising. And within that, because it was always a thing of mine from back in end of secondary school, beginning of college, I was very much into wanting to show my work, and there was nowhere free to show your work. So I created an arts and community magazine within the company for sort of 4 or 5 of the local areas I lived in at the time, grew up in, and it had a gallery in there to support students of the local colleges to showcase their artwork in there for free. It was just there. It wasn't many pages, but it was something, and there was nothing else at the time. Still doing it, the 8-9 years later from the original time I had the idea, and it was giving them a platform to do that. So there was the magazine, and we also created a t-shirt brand that we ran as well for about a year or so. It was just interests and stuff and hobbies that we like that actually we can capture in to the business's everyday running, and make profit from actually. So that again is a bit like we talked about with Snapshot before. Yeah. We love putting on the events and doing it, and it's showing everyone and the clients and the audience that it's not just a job, it's not just your wage. There's more to it, and I think that was a massive thing for myself and my colleague who I ran the business with at the time. And it was great fun. It was really good. We went 2.5 years before we stopped due to health issues for myself. I had to take a year out of work. But it was great fun. We really built something from nothing to something. And it taught me a lot, because there was a lot of bits I look back now and think that wasn't right. And there's other bits that you think, oh, that was really good. And you live and you learn and you progress, really.
Yeah, you have to. I think you have to go through the bad times to appreciate the good times, and also so you know from experience not to do it again.
Absolutely.
Like if you make a mistake once, then you'll learn from it. But if you do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, then that's on you now. That's not a mistake now. That's a choice.
Yeah.
So I think you have to, and I think most people don't like failure and don't like going through bad times, which is totally understandable. But I think you have to go through failure to get success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. It keeps you, I think, and it can keep you grounded, but it also, I think it helps you look at a wider scope of business, and being able to see something can go wrong and you just don't see it, and it might give you a bit more about you. You get a bit more knowledge behind you to be able to tackle something if it comes up, because issues will always come up, even if you're the most successful in the world.
Yeah.
And it's handling it the best way possible, and it might be something that you learned 10 years or 20 years ago from an issue or a failure, as you said, and that helps you down the line.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Before I think we're gonna end it here. Just want to quickly say thank you. But before we go, we always end this podcast with some quick fire questions.
Oh, good.
So, are you ready?
Okay, go for it.
So, what advice would you give a young Donny?
Ooh, trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Okay, cool. And given the choice of 3 people, dead or alive, who would you have as a dinner guest and why?
Oh my goodness.
So you've got 3 people. Who would you have?
Well, one of them, he died not too long ago, is Kobe Bryant.
Legend, goat.
Yeah.
Absolute goat. Yeah.
Well, he helped me enough. I got into basketball when Michael Jordan was playing, but I didn't get to watch him enough at the time, and TV coverage wasn't that good here. But Kobe Bryant benefited from Michael Jordan, and but Kobe Bryant's one, his ability, but 2, his work ethic, his demand to be the best, keep being the best, and challenging the best continuously. And I remember seeing an interview of him where they said how what are you doing, what's your schedule throughout the day and the night, and he just said how much he worked, how hard he worked, and when he was done with training, he was still training, but he was always consistently there for his family. He never took time away from the family, apart from the game days and the travel that came with it.
Yeah.
So if he's back home to put his daughters to bed and read them books and everything, he would then go and do a workout again when they've gone to sleep, and he's exhausted. He said, I sacrificed sleep to make sure I was there for my family whilst doing my profession, my job. And then on top of that, he retires and goes and wins an Oscar with that beautiful short animation, Dear Basketball.
So the poem,
a massive love and respect and admiration for him. 2 more still. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr. would definitely be another one. I'm a big fan of the deep south of America, and he was born in Atlanta, and luckily enough, I went to did a honeymoon trip 2 years ago, and that was one of the places I went to, as well as Memphis, where he died, and I got to see the Civil Rights Museum there. But he always stood up for the right in the right way, and I think that's really, really important, because if ever there was something that could make you react with anger and hate, and really vent it out and show it, it was what he and others were experiencing at the time, and still experience, obviously, to this day. And he always seemed to rise above it, even to the point he's getting arrested. He doesn't fight back. He takes the arrest and carries on. And the next day he comes back out and he continues to be the preacher that he is. So I think that's incredible. It's it's a good example and a great role model to see, like, when the hardest thing is hitting you and knocking you down, to still be able to be as professional, if you want to say that word, as possible and deal with it in the right manner, or a manner that is incredibly clever, I think. Do that yourself to this day and age. So I think it's important not to keep your head above water. The third one, well, after your compliments, I should probably invite you to be.
I would come to that. Kobe Bryant, Dr. Luther King, and you. That's an amazing setup.
A third one.
So it can be anyone you want.
Oh, goodness me. I think I would have to go. It's very similar to the Kobe Bryant one, but I'll go with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Another go.
Yeah, I know it's another sports person, and I probably, if I had more time to think about this with your quick fire sake thing, I maybe wouldn't have Cristiano Ronaldo, but not too dissimilar to Kobe Bryant. He has great ability, and then he does more with it through pure effort and working hard. So I love someone who has ability, but then goes and makes more with it, and work hard. He's not. If he continued down the route he was initially in the first 5 years of his career, he's just going to be a good player. But he goes and makes better of himself. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah, mate, that sounds like a dinner party. So it's got you, Kobe Bryant, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Cristiano Ronaldo. That is a setup.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get a comment in at all. They're going to just be chatting themselves, but it'd be worth it just to be around them and get their feeling of all three of them.
That's incredible. And last question, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? So where do you see yourself in 2030? What do you think you'll be doing?
Well, hopefully I've gone out of the house by then. Hopefully I'm still not isolated.
Fingers crossed, eh?
Fingers crossed, yeah. Otherwise it's going to be a long 10 years. I don't know where I see myself exactly, but I hope I'm continue to be a better version of what I am now, and keep bettering myself and pushing myself and challenging myself. As older as I feel now, I don't want to slow down. So whether it's the work I do, whether it's how I engage with the staff at work, whether it's my home life with my child and my wife, I want more for them and more for my work. So it's up to me to keep pushing and doing more, quite frankly. So that's basically keep pushing. I want to keep pushing and be the better version for everyone around me that I would like to be around and support and be with.